welcome to Vintage Vehicle X-Ray. There is a building one block off Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills that most people walk past without slowing down. No sign outside worth reading. No indication from the street of what is stored inside. People on their way to lunch, to meetings, to somewhere else entirely pass it every day without a second thought. That is exactly how Bruce Meyer prefers it. Behind those walls sits one of the most significant private car collections in the world. Not significant because of money, though the money involved is considerable. Significant because of what the collection represents. A lifetime of decisions made by someone who understood, earlier than almost anyone else in the room, what certain machines were going to mean to in history. A man who saw value in things other people had not yet learned to value, and who acted on that understanding before the market confirmed he was right. People who know the collector car world deeply describe Bruce Meyer as the car guy's car guy. That phrase sounds simple. It is not. It means that the people who themselves know everything about cars, the serious collectors, the racing historians, the curators, the fabricators, look at Bruce Meyer and see someone who knows more, wears more, and has done more for this world than they have. That kind of respect cannot be purchased or performed. It accumulates over decades of genuine engagement with something you actually love. Meyer grew up near the old Art Center College of Design campus in Hancock Park, Los Angeles. The students there in the post-war years were largely returning GIs who drove hot rods. That detail matters. Not because it explains everything about how he turned out, but because it places him from a very early age around people who cared seriously about machines. The passion did not arrive later in life when money became available. It was already forming in a kid watching students drive modified Fords past a campus in Hancock Park before he was old enough to drive anything himself. This is the story of his garage, the cars inside it, and the way one person's sustained conviction changed what the collector world considers worth keeping. The first thing to understand about Bruce Meyer is that he did not simply buy famous cars. Anyone with sufficient resources can do that. What Meyer did was different. He has described his biggest contribution to the automotive world not as any particular acquisition, but as getting recognition for hot rods. That statement, delivered without drama, contains a genuine revolution. In the 1980s and well into the 1990s, hot rods occupied an uncomfortable position in the formal collector car world. They were not the kind of thing that appeared on the lawn at Pebble Beach alongside pre-war European machinery and significant racing cars. They were considered a separate category, American, working class in origin, informal in character, built in garages by people outside the institutional structure that governed collector car, prestige. The people who ran the major concours events kept them at a comfortable distance, and the distance felt permanent. Meyer spent 10 years working to change that. He gathered every article, every piece of historical documentation, every argument he could find about hot rodding's genuine connection to American racing history, and he sent it to the people responsible for the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance class structure. 10 years of sustained, patient, persistent advocacy. He was not doing this to inflate the value of his own collection, though that was an eventual consequence. He was doing it because he genuinely understood something the institutional gatekeepers had not yet accepted. That the men who built hot rods in California after the war were the same men who later built Carroll Shelby's Cobras, who populated the racing teams that won at Le Mans, who developed the engineering language that fed decades of American performance culture. Hot rods were finally shown on the Pebble Beach lawn in 1997. Meyer won the inaugural hot rod class that year with his Doane Spencer Roadster. That moment was not just a personal victory. It was a reclassification of what the collector car world considered legitimate, and the hot rod class at Pebble Beach has remained there ever since. 1 year before that Pebble Beach moment, Meyer had already helped build something more permanent. He was a close friend and neighbor of Robert E. Petersen, the publisher of Hot Rod magazine, the man who had arguably done more to bring hot rodding to a mainstream American audience than anyone alive. Together, Meyer and Petersen hatched the idea for what would become the Petersen Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. It opened in 1994. Meyer became its founding chairman, a role he has held continuously ever since. The museum sits on Wilshire Boulevard at Fairfax in Los Angeles. It underwent a major renovation in 2015, emerging with a dramatically redesigned exterior. But its founding identity, a a place that took seriously both the grand international racing tradition and the American hot rod tradition, was established from the beginning by the two men who created Sport. Robert Petersen brought the publishing empire and the name. Bruce Meyer brought the understanding of what the collection should contain and why, or that institution and what it has done for the preservation and public appreciation of automotive history over 3 decades is arguably the most significant thing Bruce Meyer has contributed to the collector car world, more significant even than the collection inside his own garage. The garage itself is inside a building 1 block off Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. For his 70th birthday, Meyer transformed a space near his Beverly Hills office into an elegant private garage and museum for his cars. The building has a history of its own. It was originally one of the first commercial parking garages built in Beverly Hills, dating to 1926. Over the years, it served different purposes before Meyer converted it into the space it is today. A sign outside says simply used cars. Everything inside has been driven, raced, or rallied. Walking into the garage, the cars do not present themselves the way museum pieces do. They are not roped off. They are not explained by plaques in the way that objects behind glass are explained. They are simply there at close range in a space that feels like a working environment rather than a display hall, because it is a working environment. Meyer drives these cars, he takes them to events. He has been known to move them himself, one by one when the collection needs rearranging. His wife Raylene reportedly suggested using the space behind his office when the collection had grown beyond what the original garage could hold. That detail, a collection so seriously built that it outgrew its space, tells you something about the pace and commitment with which Meyer assembled what he has. The Shelby Cobra CSX-1 is the car most people want to know about first, and it deserves the attention. Shelby built the first Cobra, the prototype serial number CSX-2000, and has kept it in his personal collection. CSX-2001 is the first Cobra ever sold to a customer. The first one that left the factory and entered the world. Meyer bought it in 2006 at an auction in Paris at Retromobile. The car had surfaced in Europe, and when someone told Meyer what the serial number was, he had to hear it again before he trusted what he was hearing. RC Cars records show the manufacture date as July 17, 1962. The car was first shipped to Ed Hughes, Carroll Shelby's first Cobra dealer, who operated out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hughes had a remarkable racing career of his own, including multiple Le Mans appearances. He installed a 260 cubic inch Ford V8 and sold the car to a doctor in Pennsylvania. The doctor found a Cobra to be an unsuitable vehicle for Pennsylvania winters and traded it for a Porsche, which is the kind of decision that looks very different depending on which decade you are evaluating it from. From there, the car moved through several owners across 2 continents, accumulating paint, modifications, and distance from its original configuration. When Meyer acquired it, he called 2 of the most knowledgeable Cobra experts he knew and asked them directly whether he should buy it. Both said yes without hesitation. He sent the car to the shop that had previously restored Carroll Shelby's own CSX 2000 and sent the engine separately to the leading Cobra mechanical authority for rebuilding. He did not cut corners on the most historically important Cobra in private hands. He found the right people, gave them the right brief, and waited for the work to be done properly. The Greer Black Prudhomme Dragster is the car in the collection that produces the most immediate impact on people who encounter it without preparation. It looks like pure function, long, low, minimal, built entirely around the idea of going as fast as possible in a straight line with no compromise made toward any other consideration. The Dragster was built in 1962 by Tom Greer, powered by engines built by Keith Black, and driven by Don Prudhomme, a young driver from the San Fernando Valley who was in the process of establishing himself as one of the finest drag racers of his generation. The record the car produced across its competitive life is precise and extraordinary: 237 wins from 241 races. In any competitive discipline, a record of that consistency is remarkable. In drag racing, where mechanical failure alone accounts for significant attrition, it is simply one of the most dominant competitive performances in the sport's history. Meyer acquired the Dragster because he understood that it was not merely a fast old car. It was a document, evidence of a specific period in American motorsport when drag racing was developing its own engineering culture, its own heroes, its own identity. placing it in the same collection as European Le Mans winners and pre-war Ferrari road racers was a deliberate statement about what deserves to be preserved and why. He takes the dragster out occasionally and runs it. The sound it produces when it fires is not the sound of a museum piece being carefully demonstrated. It is the sound of a machine doing what it was built to do, which is the only honest way to honor what it is. Of course. The hot rod collection is where Meyer's particular vision is expressed most personally, and where his role in changing the collector world is most clearly visible in physical form. He has assembled over the years a collection of significant 1932 Fords that includes the Doane Spencer Roadster, the Bob McGee Roadster, the Bob Morris Roadster, Dan Gurney's 1932 Highboy, and several others. A total of 9 or 10 significant deuces, depending on which point in the collection's history you are examining. The fact that this many historically important examples of one body style exist under one roof is the result of decades of relationship building in the hot rod world, beginning long before those cars were sought after by collectors, and therefore long before the prices reflected their significance. The Bob McGee Roadster deserves specific mention. Bob McGee began building it in 1947, and the finished car became one of the most influential hot rods of the early post-war period, establishing an aesthetic that spread through the roadster community, and became, over time, essentially the prototype of what people imagine when they think of a California hot rod. It appeared on the cover of Hot Rod magazine and became famous enough that later owners leased it to film and television productions for use in period settings. By the time Meyer acquired it, the car had been through significant changes from its original configuration. He restored it to its 1948 specification in the late 1990s. 2023, Meyer donated the McGee Roadster to the Petersen Automotive Museum's permanent collection. He gave away what may be the single most historically significant American hot rod in private hands. That act of donation, transferring something of that value to a public institution so that future generations could encounter it, is consistent with how Meyer has always thought about these objects, not as possessions, as things he is responsible for on behalf of everyone who cares about where they came from. The SoCal Speed Shop Belly Tank Lakester connects the collection to a specific and remarkable chapter in California speed culture. After the Second World War, hot rodders in Southern California discovered that the aluminum drop tanks carried under P-38 Lightning fighter aircraft were nearly perfect shapes for land speed racing. They were aerodynamically sophisticated almost by accident, light, available as military surplus, and cheap enough that a group of determined individuals without factory support could acquire and modify them. Alex Zidias of the SoCal Speed Shop built and drove one of these machines to a top speed of 198.34 miles per hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats, a figure that, in the context of what was available to build with in the late 1940s, represents extraordinary achievement. Meyer's collection of this car is not about the object as a visual curiosity. It is about preserving the evidence of what a generation of California hot rodders accomplished without institutional support, without factory resources, and without any particular expectation that history would eventually recognize what they had done. The belly tank is that evidence. The Ferrari collection within Meyer's broader collection represents the international racing dimension of his automotive life. The 1957 Ferrari 625-250 Testarossa is described by the Petersen Museum as the winningest Ferrari road racer of all time, having claimed first place in more than half of the 50 competitions in which it was raced. The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT SWB Berlinetta that Meyer bought himself for his 60th birthday won its class at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1961 and finished third overall. These are not decorative acquisitions. Each carries documented racing history that makes the car what it is. The 1979 Kremer Porsche 935 K3 won Le Mans outright that year, the overall victory in the most demanding endurance race in the world. It sits in the same building as hot rods built by working-class Californians from surplus military parts. The range of what Meyer considers worth preserving is the statement. Not just the internationally prestigious machinery, not just the famous names in the European racing heritage, whole story of how people pushed machines as fast as they could go, regardless of where they came from or how much money was behind them. In 2012, at 71 years old, Bruce Meyer drove one of his 1929 Ford Roadsters on the Bonneville Salt Flats and reached 204 miles per hour. Or, he earned membership in the Bonneville 200 mph club that day. He was not watching from the timing stand. He was in the car, for sure. That fact explains more about the man and his relationship with these machines than any inventory list could. His personal motto, suggested to him by racing driver Parnelli Jones years ago, is never lift. The instruction a driving coach gives a student who is lifting off the throttle when they should be committed to the corner. Meyer has applied it to a life spent collecting, advocating, driving, donating, and building institutions that will outlast him. The cars in his collection are not behind ropes. They are not arranged for photography and then covered. They are used by someone who understands that the point of a machine is to be operated, and that the most honest form of preservation is keeping something in the condition where it can still do what, it was built to do. The building one block off Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills holds that philosophy in physical form. Behind walls that announce nothing to the street, the first production Cobra sits near a 1932 Ford Hot Rod built by a man in a California garage. A Le Mans winning Porsche sits near a belly tank racer fashioned from a P-38 Lightning drop tank. Dragster that won 237 of 241 races sits near Ferraris that won races on circuits in France and Italy. They share space because in Bruce Meyer's understanding of automotive history, they belong together. Not because they carry equal financial value, because they are equally honest expressions of people who cared deeply about going fast and built things to prove it. That is what Vintage Vehicle X-Ray is here to explore. Not auction results, not market valuations, the stories behind the objects, the decisions that led to preservation, the people who understood what something was worth before anyone else in the room had caught up. Bruce Meyer caught up first on almost everything in that building, and the world of automotive history is significantly richer because he did. Thank you for being here. Take care of the old ones. We will see you next time.